Alrighty guys, it is Quaman here today, and I have another Dragon Ball Z discussion. So in today's video, we'll be talking about something that's actually kind of interesting in regards to a lot of other shows that a lot of people would have grown up on. And it is this. Is Dragon Ball Z, GT, the whole shebang, a kid's show? And in this video we're going to talk about whether or not we consider the series to actually be a kids series, because a lot of times it's actually referred to as a kids series, but at the same time a lot of parents, or I guess you can say looking at it from an older age, you can actually consider the series quite mature for many of the things that it does. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video. So Rhymestyle, what are your thoughts?
Is Dragon Ball Z a kids show? That's actually a really fun topic to talk about. And I know everybody watching this right now is going to have an opinion, because I know my audience, my channel, and Tosi's channel, and your channel as well, Quaman, we have, based on our analytics, we know that we have viewers from any age, whether you're 12, you're 30. I have sometimes viewers who are in the top 60s, which is weird, but it shows you that there are people across pretty much any age who, I guess, care about Dragon Ball Z. And obviously the answer to that is no, it is not a kid's show. Dragon Ball Z is forever. You know what? This actually goes back to one of my favorite memes of all time. There's like that meme that's like guys and girls, and like on the girls' side, it's like at age 12 watching High School Musical, at age 16 watching Twilight, at age 20 something, it's like watching another like girl show or something like that. And then for Dragon Ball Z, for the guys, like age 12 Dragon Ball Z, age 16 Dragon Ball Z, age 21 Dragon Ball Z. Like, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody has seen this meme at some point. And basically the answer to that is Dragon Ball Z is forever. It's for any age. I mean, a lot of us started watching when we were younger. We kind of grew up with it. I think that's probably it's because we all grew up with it. Like, we all grew up with it. It was a part of our big childhood. So whether you're freaking 12 starting it up, or you're freaking 40 growing up watching it, you can go back and watch Dragon Ball Z anytime. And that's what makes it so great. It's like, it's more than just a show. It's a big part of our childhood, if anything.
Yeah. I agree. I think that Dragon Ball Z, just because we watched it when we were kids, I don't think it's a kid's show per se, because the show itself, obviously, it does have a lot of violence, a lot of blood, a lot of all that stuff. It's not like Blue's Clues or something like that. It's like it's not meant for kids only. It's meant for people of all ages to enjoy it, because, you know, the manga itself, even though it was, especially Dragon Ball, like Dragon Ball itself, you cannot say, no matter how old you are, it is not a kid's show. Dragon Ball is a very different monster.
Dragon Ball is more of a mature show than Dragon Ball Z, to say that.
Yeah, so it's something for all ages. Obviously, you don't want not everybody wants their kid watching Dragon Ball, but Dragon Ball Z is something that's really for kids of all ages, because it's not really something that's too bad, especially like if you're watching it on like Nicktoons, like Kai or something like that. But if you're watching it like the old version where it's like very bloody and all that stuff, I guess you could say that it could be for everybody. But
guys,
like, I don't know.
I have a funny story actually. Now that we're talking about Dragon Ball and how perverted Dragon Ball was, I remember back when I was watching the Frieza saga and like it kept starting over and I was just sick of it. I was like, I just want to see more. And around that same time, the Android saga just came out, and it was like that Trunks. It was like 2 Trunks tapes, VHS tapes that came out. And I remember I bought the uncut version. You're probably thinking, I mean, it's not that bad. It's not, there's nothing really in it that's, bad for you. But remember, I bought a VHS, which means I had to watch it in my living room, because that's where the VHS was. I mean, I had a TV in my bedroom, but the actual TV that had the VHS was in the living room. So I watched it in there the second I got home. I started watching it. And I remember, and I'm pretty sure this, a lot of people might relate here, whether it's in Dragon Ball Z or any other show, but I remember the part where Master Roshi is reading that porn magazine, and the uncut version, they like show it. They were just like straight animated titties on my TV screen. And like, oh yeah, crap! And I thought my dad is sitting right there, my mom's next to me, and it was the most awkward moment of my growing up life. I was like 11, I think. It was just so awkward. And I'm pretty sure this happened to everybody at some point, or not everybody, but a lot of people at some point, where it's like you are caught by accident, just like, watching something with your parents, and just that awkward feeling. But I remember I felt so awkward and embarrassed when that came up, and I was like, this is Dragon Ball Z, this is what the kids are watching.
This is the same thing that happened to me, although mine was in the Buu saga, where Master Roshi was sitting in the like flying ship with 18 and obviously her daughter, and he groped the actual crap out of her. Like, he grabbed it. He was holding it for dear life. He was like, oh no, you saved my life. And he grabbed that with his like full palm. He was ready for it. And And I remember my mother was watching it with me because she wanted to see what I was watching, because she had bought me a few. I had Broly, I had some of the Cell Saga fillers, including one of those actually in the beginning of it. It was Gohan as a normal Super Saiyan. It was one of the episodes where they were all chill. And he saved a little girl. I think her name was Lime or something. She was a young girl from the river, and when he picked her up and took her out of the river, he was grabbing her from, you know, the top from the top up, and she like got extremely embarrassed. And my parents were like, "What? How are you allowed to watch?" I'm like, "It's just Dragon Ball Z, Mom. I don't know. I just enjoy it."
Yo, I need to know, has any embarrassing moment like that happened to you, whether it's with Dragon Ball Z or any anime or even just TV in general, just like titties came on screen or something? Let us know your best stories. Like, don't be ashamed. Just happen to all of us. I want to know like some stories, because I'm pretty sure that what happened to me and Toasty is a lot worse than what happened to some people. Actually, Kwame, has anything happened to you?
Oh yeah, I had a lot. I wanted you to share your piece because I actually remember, and I might do a separate video talking about my first experience watching Dragon Ball Z, but I remember that my brother, and Rhymestyle, you make a very good point. It's for so many different age groups, because I remember my brother's considerably older than me, and he's been watching Dragon Ball since like the 80s. He was a part of the before the Cartoon Network boom.
Oh, he's an OG. He's an OG.
And he was watching it as an adolescent. So what I find interesting is that I remember the first episode he ever showed me was, you know, an episode on Planet Namek, and I remember the first time I ever saw it, I asked him, why is the water green and the grass blue? Like, I didn't understand. It didn't make any sense to me. He's like, they were on an alien planet. And I remember it got me really interested in the show. And then I remember one time I saw it on TV, but it was in Spanish. And what I found weird is I wasn't really understanding what they were saying, but it was the episode where Android 18 was absorbed by Cell. And I was watching it with my older sister, and there was like a scene where 18, I'm probably going to show it in the video for footage, she like exploded into like blood, and and you know, Krillin got really pissed off about it, and I was like, wow, and like, this is pretty violent. So then my mom actually started to buy me actual like tapes and stuff of the series, and then she got me a Frieza Saga episode, and I was watching it, you know, with my grandma because I was bored, and it was the episode where Frieza got cut in half. And, you know, like, my mom was like, are you sure you're mature enough to watch this show at your age? And my grandma was like,
how old were you?
Crazy. I don't even remember, man. Like, this was so long ago. I really have no clue. But it was definitely before, I was definitely younger than Ash Ketchum. And
so you're like under 10?
Yes. So...
Okay.
Basically what happens next is that my grandmother actually, she wanted me to stop watching it, but my parents felt I was old enough, so then it kind of brought me up. It's like, this show's really violent. And if you look at a lot of the things it does, Toasty kind of beat me to it when he mentioned Dragon Ball. You can make an argument that Dragon Ball's a lot more mature than Z is. I mean, there were so many instances where Master Roshi, you know, asked Bulma to strip for him, you know, to get what he wanted out of it.
Yep.
And I mean,
while she's underage.
While she's underage.
Or when Goku like was like curious about female body parts.
Oh my god, that was hilarious.
That was.
Yo, I think I never watched Dragon Ball until later. Well, not watched Dragon Ball. I mean, like later. Like I saw it scene later. Because I remember it was when I saw it uncut. I was like, oh okay, but I didn't know they actually showed it. And when I went back like older, I was like, oh my god, this is actually part of the show. This is wow.
Right. And, you know, there's a lot of very mature elements in it. I mean, I'm not even just talking about the violence or the sexual innuendos. I'm talking about just strictly, like, adult themes. Like, things that kids probably wouldn't conceive of that much. Like, comparing Bulma's family to Goku's family, you know? Like, it's very conceptual where you see, like, Goku's family is very, very, very rural. And then Bulma's family is, like, ultra-urban. And, you know, a lot of the elements that the show actually shows, you know, really plays a factor in the series. And, you know, like Piccolo being a surrogate father for Gohan, that's not something that the average child would think about as much as when they're older and they look back on it and they say, wow, like the show is really trying to show us this you know, feeling as opposed to what
I have a request. I have a request.
What's that?
In this part of this video, show the clothes beam clip. Clothes beam. You have to show the clothes beam clip.
The clothes beam clip. I remember that.
It doesn't make any sense. This dude spawned clothes out of nowhere. Like it's like here's the thing about Dragon Ball Z. Like this is kind of off topic for a second, but like with DBZ growing up watching, I used to always like come up with theories. Oh, this is how this works. So you create this Kamehameha by gathering energy, blasting it forward. You create the death beam by focusing fingers into one, focusing energy into a finger and then blasting it. But the close beam never made any sense. Like focus your ki to create close. Like how does that work? What?
Clothes are made of energy in the Dragon Ball universe. They're made of energy.
I don't understand. Like
that's how it works.
But yeah, as you were saying.
No, so basically, like it kind of led me to the discussion, like whether or not it's actually a kid show. When it actually comes to like answering the question, honestly, I think Dragon Ball Z, especially Dragon Ball, is a show for older people. And when you consider, a lot of the adult themes in it, I definitely don't think it's a kid's show. But I mean, when you censor it down and reduce a lot of the violence that they did, I guess you can kind of consider it a kid show. I mean, you can make an argument that Pokemon is relatively violent too. I mean, you're basically training like these pocket monsters to beat the living hell out of each other. I mean,
well, what I was gonna say is, I mean, technically on paper, Dragon Ball Z, any anime, pretty much any action anime is always made for an older audience, but doesn't matter how old you are, we're still gonna watch it, whether you're 6, you're 30. Like the thing about Dragon Ball Z that I see it is it's a series that fits any age group, and like I'm sure everybody watching this is gonna agree because I'm sure people are all sorts of different ages who are watching this right now. So that's how I see it.
Yeah. I mean, like, even with the censoring and stuff that Nicktoons does to Kai and all that stuff, it's like, still, the show does have a lot of instances of death. Frieza, Raditz, Nappa, Vegeta, well, not Vegeta, well, actually, technically Vegeta, since Vegeta did die in the Namek Saga, but still, it's like, it still has a lot of instances of death, which you didn't really get from a lot of other kids' shows back in the day.
I mean,
but what I would say to balance that off, though, Dragon Ball Z also offers a lot of inspiration, because I remember when I was growing up, there's nothing that inspired me more that wanted to be like Goku, like want to be a good guy, being able to like get the superpower to protect the weak. Like we all wanted that. We all wanted to be Gohan. Every single person watching this video at some point wanted to be Gohan when he went Super Saiyan 2. We all wanted it. So even though it is kind of violent, it does balance itself out, and it's still like good. So when I become a parent, I'm gonna let my kids watch Dragon Ball Z. It's gonna be actually training. Like the second they like come out, like, hey, there you go. I know you're 2 seconds old, bruh. I know you're like 2 seconds old, but here you go, episode 1. Start watching it.
You don't get to be my child without actually watching Dragon Ball Z. No, that's not gonna fly.
Well, I was gonna make a good point when you brought up, Gohan turning Super Saiyan 2 Rhymestyle. I think we can both agree that the Cell Jr. fight with Super Saiyan 2 Gohan itself was probably the most violent part of the entire series. I mean, he was just cutting him up into pieces.
Right.
And if you look at the Buu saga, I mean, how many times has Majin Buu had like his body parts like blown off completely, and like his head was like blown off and stuff, and like he regenerated. But one thing is that as a villain, you gotta admit that Majin Buu kind of made the show a little bit more kiddie than the others, like turning people into
definitely,
candy.
especially with Gotenks too.
Exactly, Gotenks and Majin Buu were very, very, very immature characters.
You know what? You bring up a good point. I think like with the introduction of Gohan, it was like, because Dragon Ball is obviously made for a more adult audience, but with the introduction of Gohan and Z, I think they were trying to like become more kid friendly in the series.
Like GT Saiyaman.
Yeah, well, not even just like I'm talking about from like Kid Gohan. Like they introduced Kid Gohan and they kind of want to aim like, you know what? We all watch Goku grow up. Now here's this kid. Like this is for the kids, and here's this kid. Like, because remember Dragon Ball Z did originally have a big focus around Gohan and making him basically the hero, but then like fans don't like that, and then it went back to being Goku based with the Buu saga.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people thought Goten was going to do stuff after, as Gotenks, after Gohan had technically grown up and stopped really fighting as much, and Goku was technically dead in the beginning of the Buu saga, but then obviously old Kai sacrificed himself and Goku came back, so and everyone was like, oh, it's back to Goku time. And then GT did that all too much. It was like, oh, hey, have Goku. Goku's the only one.
Kid, yeah.
And it's like it's like, okay, let's settle this. We'll make him a kid again, and then he can be the only one that does everything. It's like,
I kind of like that you bring up GT, Zizutoshi. I was gonna touch on that before we close this out, because if you actually look at GT's kind of like organized in between like mature and immature. Because if you look at the very beginning of the series, when they're in outer space and fighting these astronomically weaker villains, it was very, very, very immature in the way like they went about things, like fighting worms. I mean, and some of the things that Goku did, and like Trunks, dressing up like a girl, it was very immature in certain ways. But like once it got to like the baby and the Shadow Dragon and the Super 17 arc, the show got a lot more serious. And I
Super
felt like it
Saiyan
was
4, like when he killed the Ice Dragon, that was like
right,
yeah.
and that was very different from Dragon Ball because Dragon Ball Z, because Dragon Ball Z is the opposite. Dragon Ball Z started off very serious and then kind of like softened up, like when the Buu Saga came. But you gotta admit, the Frieza Saga and with the exception of the Ginyu Force, the Frieza Saga and the Cell games was pretty dark in a lot of the things that it had. And, you know, I just definitely think that it's for no way near a kid's show, especially if you read the manga. I mean, because I remember I was collecting manga volumes since I was a kid, and, you know, I remember like they would say some things in it that they didn't say on the TV show, like, Frieza told Gohan, why don't you worry about your own ass? And, you know, they would say like damn all the time, and there was no such thing as HFIL. They just said straight up hell.
Just hell yeah. Which is funny because when I discovered the Uncut World of Dragon Ball Z, I was blown. I was like, oh my god, they could say that. Which
that's
funny,
why Kai does it so much.
Yeah,
Kai curses a lot more. Like I mean, I don't even remember.
Kai is more true to the manga anyway, so that's probably why they did that way.
Did Goku ever even say? Did he call Frieza a bastard in the original Dragon Ball Z? When he became a Super Saiyan?
In the anime? No.
Yeah.
In the anime he didn't.
In the manga,
but he did that
in the manga.
In the manga he did, and then he did it in Kai as well. So, trying to be true to the manga.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's just see what the people think. I mean, this is a very interesting topic that like I never even thought about until Kwame just kind of brought it up. So yeah, what do people think?
Yeah. And
also,
one more, final point that I just wanted to make out really quick in regards to Future Trunks. Like, when you look at that series, like, one big difference between the anime and the manga was that in the manga, Future Trunks, like, kind of indirectly talked about sex, whereas in the anime, they just, like, completely glanced over it. Like, I remember Trunks was saying, oh yeah, in the future, you know, mom and dad, they were just sitting around and it just happened. Whereas they never said that in the anime. Like, ever. Like, they never hinted at it, they never mentioned it, and that was just one big thing. Like, they actually talked about sex, like, indirectly, so that's one thing I found interesting.
I can just see Vegeta like, bored! Hey, wanna have sex? Like...
No, it's just how it went in the Team 4-Star version. That's how it went.
It's exactly how it went. It's probably the best depiction of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know your thoughts, and also I want to hear funny, embarrassing parents and kid stories that you guys have where, like, either it was too violent or something awkward happened, like Master Orochi's reading a porno on your parents are sitting right there. Like, I want to know your best stories. So comment that in the comment section below.
I just thought about Marin again. Oh my god, Marin.
Bruh. Dude, I actually remember with Marin too, like, I mean, with Marin, you never really saw her naked. At least I don't think. I just remember every time I watched it, she was just always just half naked. I just remember how awkward it felt. Like, my dad's right next to me, like, what are you watching, son? It's like, it's Dragon Ball Z.
Why is that blue-haired girl in the bikini? What are you doing, son?
Well, one thing I will say is that it's kind of obvious for a lot of people who watch a lot of anime that, you know, the Japanese culture is a little bit more open to, I guess you can say, sexual themes than it is in the Western Hemisphere. But
so is Europe, actually, because I grew up in Germany, and I remember they were like just porn everywhere. Like on Prime TV after 10 o'clock, it just tits everywhere, just titties. Like,
I mean, because
I remember growing up, I was like, yeah, boy! Like, I remember, like, it was amazing.
The United States is a puritanical system. We're based off of the Puritans, which were expelled from Europe. So, I mean, I guess that kind of carries through in society. We'd give our kids a bunch of violent shows, but we wouldn't let them watch sex, which is completely natural. So, at the end of the day, guys,
yeah.
I think that Dragon Ball Z is not a kid's show when you look at a lot of the elements, especially Dragon Ball. I'm sure Rhymestyle and ZZ Toasty all agree the same thing, but we know that a lot of you are kids. I can see in my comment sections, and you know, we want to hear your thoughts as kids. Like, do you view it like for you? Do you think it's a little too mature? Do you think it's a little immature, or do you just want to watch and sneak it? And what do your parents think? But that's been our video.
And if you made it this far in the video, hashtag Dragon Ball Z is forever. One word. Put it in the comment section below.
Yes, I've learned this whole hashtag thing from Rhymestyle. And please check out Rhymestyle and ZZ Toasty's channel. If you're watching this on theirs, please check me out. We're all going to be in the description. But thank you guys for watching, and please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.